to my MBA at Penn State, I was working in public accounting in PwC in Nigeria. So pretty much auditing and stuff like that, and some financial consulting for majorly financial institutions back home in Nigeria. And I decided on the MBA because most of my experiences were just about companies within Nigeria and some few African countries I've had the opportunity to work in. And I wanted that international experience. And my career at that particular moment was not going to give me that international exposure I was looking out for. So I decided, okay, then it's the right time to actually go for an MBA program. And Penn State was a great choice for me because I think the pivotal moment where I was so sure I was going to Penn State was when I actually had my interview with the admissions team, and it was actually Michael who did my own interview. And prior to then, I'd had multiple interviews with different admissions committees in different schools, but my conversation with Michael was different. And it was different because Michael was really, really down to earth. He told me, okay, this is what I would experience within the program. And he didn't just paint a rosy picture. He was clear that he understood the challenges that international students face when they come into the program. And he took time to explain those challenges to me. And he told me how the program itself will actually help me navigate those problems, and how, as much as the program can do everything in their power to actually help me achieve my goal, but the onus is still on me to be able to take advantage of those resources that are available out there. And that conversation was just a game changer for me because I felt, oh, this person understands or has taken time to actually explain what I'll be going through or the challenges I might be facing in the program, or like what other admissions committee had done in my previous interviews I had. Besides that, honestly, from my own experience at Penn State, I don't think I could have gotten that experience anywhere else. The program really, really focuses on building you personally, both technically and your soft skills. The program leverages a lot of team building and team-focused activities. So in my first year of the MBA program, we did a lot of case competition, team-based case competition, both within ourselves, within the program, and with external, with other programs outside the Smeal program. That focus on team building, because they are actually training you to be leaders and managers after the program. And you need to be able to understand how you can navigate the intricacies of various team dynamics and the various teams that you would be in. And that was like my greatest takeaway from the program, and something I actually appreciated, because the program gave me the opportunity to be able to work with different people from across the world who have different ideas or different values that are separate from mine, but I've been able to also learn from their experience and also grow my own experience from that. And in my first year of my MBA program, I know this is meant to be like an introduction. Let me just quickly round up. So my first year of my MBA program, with the help of Penn State and the entire resources I had, I got an internship opportunity at Microsoft. So I interned as a finance manager at Microsoft. Great experience at Microsoft. Enjoyed my team, enjoyed what I did. When I got the return offer, it was a no-brainer. I loved and I enjoyed my experience there, and I accepted straight away. Came back to Penn State for my second year. Second year was great until COVID hit, but either way, with COVID, we were still able to make the best of the experience we had at that particular point in time. Graduated in May. Now I'm back at Microsoft as a finance manager, working with the same team, but in a slightly different role. And I can say it's great. Working from home has been a bit challenging for me because it's not ideal for me to actually work from home. But I think as each day passes, I get better at it, and I'm enjoying myself.
Thank you, Godspower. I mean, you've really laid the background for us, and we'll take it up from there, and I'll just talk a bit more about Lane, and then we'll delve into today's webinar. So what my team and I right now are doing at Lane right now is trying to increase Africa's representation at various MBA programs around the world, as we feel that that could be a lot better. We think that at the end of the day, with more people going into the MBA program or seeing the possibilities that MBA programs hold for them, then they are more equipped to further come back to the continent and make it grow in their own capacity. But beyond that, what we're thinking of is we're looking at how to create a more economically and politically inclusive Africa, as we feel that when things are a lot more inclusive and anyone can get to anywhere with respect to what they could do and what they could become in their own continent, then it'd be easy for the continent as a whole to grow up. Can I be a bit more audible? That's interesting. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, I've been hearing you just fine.
Oh, okay. Is anyone else struggling to hear me? Just to be sure. Can everyone else hear me? Just wave, or I can see your faces, so.
Well, if you, yes, that's
okay.
It said that's more better. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So without any further ado, Franklin can drop the link, membership link in the chat box. If you're not already on our group or you're not already a part of the community, you can join it right there. So thank you very much, Ryan, and thank you very much, Godspower, for joining us today. If you don't know Ryan is the Interim Director of MBA Admissions at Penn State Smeal College of Business. I think it's a wonderful program and a foremost program when it comes to supply chain and even finance, and as well as many other areas as well. But I'll just kickstart what we are having today. I will start with networking. How would you define networking? I know there are a lot of misconceptions out there as to what networking really means, but as an incoming MBA student, what should networking look like for you?
You know, I think networking is one of the most underrated skills that you need to grow while you're an MBA student. I see GP already nodding his head. You know, it's at Penn State, I get chills thinking about it because at Penn State, you know, if it wasn't for our alumni network, I don't think half of our students would get the jobs that they get. You know, and so wherever you go to school, you want to tap into that network. And before you get there, you want to tap in. So really, you know, once you're applying somewhere, you want to try to network with the ambassadors of those schools and the current students of those schools to really get a feel of what it's like to go through the program. And then what is networking? You know, it's not just reaching out and saying, can you get me a job, or how do I get admitted? You know, but it's really trying to make a connection. But I'm going to step back to that in a minute. And then once you choose your school, you want to start connecting with alumni. So say you're coming to Smeal, you get admitted already, you decide Smeal's the place I want to be. You want to reach out to GP, but how you want to reach out to that is, you know, hey GP, you know, I'm coming to Smeal, I'm from Nigeria, and I want to just learn more about what your experience was and how your experience helped you get to Microsoft. I think Microsoft's a great company and I'd love to learn more about it. You know, if you take it from that angle, I think someone is much more likely to respond and be open to it if you're looking through LinkedIn, rather than, hey GP, I'm coming to Smeal, how do I get a job at Microsoft? You know, or can you recommend me for a job at Microsoft? And GP is going to be like, I don't even know you. Like, so the first step is getting to know people. The first step is getting to connect with people, find out who you connect with, because, you know, you and GP may not get along for whatever reason. I don't know how that's possible because he's a wonderful human being, but but maybe you don't connect with him, but maybe you connect with one of our current students who interned at Microsoft, Beatrice. Maybe you connect with you know, some of our other international students from other countries. Maybe you connect with some of our domestic students. Who knows? But, you know, starting to connect with these people, find things that you have in common with them, you know, use them as a resource, as, you know, learning from their experiences, because people love talking about themselves. So if you can just ask them questions about their experiences and what they loved about Penn State, what they wish they knew before they came there, you know, all of those different things, I think that eventually is going to pay dividends down the road for you, because now you have these connections. I don't know, GP, if you want to share a little bit about how you were able to network, and how you utilize the network at Penn State specifically.
Right. If there's anything I learned during my orientation at Penn State, was we had a session with career services, and they say the way you think about networking is pretty much like dating or trying to ask someone out. You don't go and you see someone on the road and you say, oh no, I want to date you. You try to build a relationship with the person. You try to show genuine interest in the person you're trying to meet. And that's how you can build long-lasting connections. If you're just going out and being very, very transactional, then you're not speaking to the right things to the person. You might be sending the wrong signals to the person. So you want to actually spend time to get to know the person you're trying to connect with and show that genuine interest in connecting with the person. Honestly, with regards to stats, Penn State has one of the largest alumni networks out there. And if there's still anything I would say that, or any regrets I have for my program, is the fact that I still did not take full advantage of that alumni network during the program. And it's something I'm working on right now to actually build those connections. Because honestly, networking doesn't end at you getting whatever job you're thinking about or whatever goal you have in mind. It's a long life, or it's a career long skill you have to develop. Right now, I'm at Microsoft, and I still have to network. I know if I want the right career progression I want, or I'm looking out for my career at Microsoft, I have to network with the right people. Good thing is, wherever you go to or wherever you are, you would always find Penn State alum. We are everywhere. It's on you as a prospective candidate or someone who's currently in the program to take advantage of those networks. And the truth is, yes, it's not everyone you reach out to that would actually accept you immediately or be willing to help you. So cast a wide net. If you're interested in something, you're trying to learn about something, cast a very, very wide net, and you will definitely catch fishes. People who, good thing about Penn State alumni is, if you have the right connections, they are there for you. You can build long-lasting mentors from just reaching out to those people. They are always there to help out. So, general advice for people, especially those who are trying to get into the program, is start your networking as early as possible. It's never too early to start networking. Talk to people within the program. Talk to people like me who are alums from the program also, to learn about the program and to actually find out if the program is going to meet whatever objectives you're actually looking to seek out from the MBA program.
Thank you very much, Godspower, for that. I want to dial back a little bit with Ryan. You made mention of something around connecting with people. I know we've tried to do that pre this webinar when you were talking about golf and temperature. Mm-hmm. But let's try and simulate what that looks like again. And I'll do that by asking you this question. Maybe you shouldn't try this where you're speaking to someone you're meeting for the first time, but I would ask the question and then I would ask you another question. First of all, just to let people get to know more about you, what is the one thing about Ryan that most people don't know about?
You know, I think one of the things I like to do when we have people first visit and we break them down and we do a fun fact about ourselves. And my fun fact is I used to be a college football coach right here. We're not at Penn State though. I didn't get paid that kind of money. But I used to coach college football. And so that's I think a fun fact about me. And I don't think a lot of people realize that when they first first start talking, or expect that when they first start talking to me.
Oh, that's very interesting. And I'm just curious again, how did you move from that to this?
Okay. Yeah. So I started out in a crazier route. So my undergraduate degree was in chemical engineering. And so as chemical engineers normally do, we go into college football coaching, right? No, but that's what I did. And so I went in, I actually started coaching football while I was an undergraduate student at the university I was at. And then got it and decided that's what I wanted to try to do with my career. It was 5 years into coaching and was making about $15,000 a year, working about 100 hours a week. And so I was like, maybe there are other things that exist out there that I can do. And so half of coaching is recruiting. And because you always have to recruit the next class, right? And so I started getting into admissions after that. And eventually I got into MBA admissions, and I love working with MBA students. I think the difference between, just think about yourself, the difference between when you were 18 years old looking to go to college and now looking to do an MBA, you're so much more focused. You're so much more passionate about what you want to do. You have true career goals. Whereas an undergrad is like, I think for me, at least, I was like, well, I like chemistry in high school. I liked math in high school. Chemical engineering sounds good. Who knows, right? Mm-hmm. And so whereas an MBA, you're like, all right, I want to come do my MBA with a concentration in finance, and I want to go work at Microsoft, or I want to do corporate finance. And then you go, okay, what are some of the corporations that hire from Smeal for finance? And we talk about Nike, we talk about Microsoft, we talk about Air Products and Chemicals. We have many Fortune 500 companies, and then like you start narrowing in. And so I love working with our MBA students, and that's where I kind of got to today.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Let's move on to this question. I'm sure you've seen many people out of the blues try to connect with you to try and understand the MBA program over the course of your working experience as an MBA admissions officer. Mm-hmm. What are some of the mistakes you've seen people make in trying to connect with admission officers?
That's a great, I think some of the concerns that people have and why they don't do it is a bigger issue. I think people reach out because they are afraid to reach out because they don't know what questions to ask, or they don't know what they don't, or they, or they think that they're wasting our time or using up our time or whatever. That's what our job is. Our job is to connect with you. Our job is to answer those questions. My job, the way I look at it, is to help you decide if the MBA is a right fit for you, and two, then if Smeal's MBA is the right fit for you. And so if you approach it saying, I'm just trying to figure out, like your very first one, if an MBA is a right fit for me, that's a great conversation to have with a student. Because some students are coming to me and like, I want to get an MBA because I want to go work for a nonprofit. And we're like, we can do that. But there are master's degrees in nonprofit leadership out there that may be a better fit for you. Or I want to do it because I want to go work in, sustainability, but be on more of the like scientific side of sustainability. And I'm like, that's great, but maybe a master's degree in, there are master's degrees in sustainability that might be a better fit than if you want to go into supply chain and apply sustainable practices to it. That's different. And so starting to have any of those conversations are great. The biggest thing I think that is the first mistake a most common mistake I see is people send out a mass email to everybody and they send out and they say, and they forget to change the name of the school, or I absolutely know it's a mass email because you send it to everybody on my staff, right? And you send it to our assistant director, our associate director, and myself. Like, we talk, we know each other, we work together, you know. But then I can also tell when you're sending it all to, like, I'm going to send one email to the top 50 schools and just use, and we can tell when those things are due. Do some research, do a little bit of research before. It doesn't have to be a lot, you know, and then try to narrow down, you know, what schools you want to talk to. And I think the easiest way, but that's probably the hardest thing to do, but the easiest way to figure out what schools to try and narrow down to is, what do you want to do after? You know, what are your post MBA goals? And then what schools can help you get there? You know, our most common competitors are the supply chain schools, right? The Penn State, Arizona State, Michigan State, Tennessee, Ohio State a little bit, right? And so, you know, where the supply chain schools, that's where you look at. And so that's our most common competitor. And so, you know, it's an easy way to start, but then you got to find fit. You got to find who you can get into, all of those types of things as well.
Yeah, Brian, you've been talking about fit. Before I go on to Godspower and show that same question back at him, how would you define fit? Because I'm sure that's what
it's not easy. You know, I think the way I like to try to explain it to people, and it's really tough for international students, but when I was looking at my undergraduate school and I walked on campus, it just felt like home. It was in a different state, it was in a different town, and it felt like I belonged there. And so trying to figure out, one, can it get me to where I want to be afterwards? And then two, talking to ambassadors is so very important, because they're the ones paying to be a part of this. They're the ones giving up 2 years of their career to be a part of this program. And if anybody's going to tell you the truth to the best of their ability, it's them. And what is it really like to be a program? Because I don't know what it exactly feels like to be a student here, because I didn't do it, right? And so talking to them and what their experiences are going through, or talking to alumni like GP and what their experience was going through the program, I think will allow you to kind of see yourself in that program and see yourself going through and say, can I do this? Is this something that I feel like I can be in for 2 years and get what I need to out of it in order to advance my career? Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Now to Godspower. I'd like for you to just bring in your perspective as, you know, some months ago as a student and now as an alum. What exactly are the things you're looking for in people you're excited to talk about?
Pretty much anyone who is coming with a learning mind is something I'm going to look out for. But a lot of people have some set notions about what to expect in the MBA program, or a lot of myths around the MBA program. But what I'm looking out for, typically for anyone who wants to connect with me, is you're coming to learn. And I understand that as an alum, my responsibility is to try as much as possible in my own capacity to guide you, to take you or point you in the right direction. I'm not going to make those decisions for you, but I can tell you, okay, I think you should consider this. This is what you should be looking at when you're trying to choose the right school for you. So it's just to walk you through those things based off of my own experience. And the onus is still on you as the applicant to either accept what I'm saying or to seek other validating information elsewhere. Personally, when I actually do my personal networking myself, like I said earlier, I try to cast a wide net. But the thing I see most people do wrong when they try to network is they don't take the time to research, like what Ryan said. Don't send like a blanket email. It's easy, even when you're networking one-on-one with someone, for someone to actually point out that, oh, this person did not even put any thought into this email they're sending to me. So take time and actually research the person you're trying to network with and try to find things that actually you have in common or interests that you share, or just spend time acknowledging that that person is unique or different, and not just send like a blanket email.
I think one, oh, sorry, Sam, you were muted, but I think one of the things that kind of gives an example of what GP was saying there is it could be as something as simple as finding a little thing in common. Hey, we were both, like, if you wanted to connect with me, and I would say I was an alum. Hey, I have an engineering degree, and Ryan did his undergraduate degree in engineering. And then so you send in the message, hey, you know, I'm looking to do this program. I see that you also have an engineering degree like me. Would you mind talking about like what your experience was there? Boom, right now we have some kind of connection where, you know, I can be like, oh, I see this person or I see myself in this person. It makes me want to answer that question for them more than somebody who sends the typical, I'm entering into the program. I would love 10 minutes to connect with you. Can we please talk? And that's it, right? If you take just one sentence and say, hey, we have this in common, I'd love to connect with you, whatever that might be, or that whatever is unique about them, like, oh, I see that you did you had work experience at PwC before coming into the program. What was that like, and how did that help you prepare for the MBA? You know, that calls out a personal background for that person, where it's not, now I know this isn't just an email that you sent to every single alumni in the whole world, right? This is a message on LinkedIn or an email that you sent specifically to me, and I would love to, it makes me want to connect more because of that.
Right, you talked about LinkedIn and email. If I had to make a choice between what platform to use to connect with admission officers or to connect with you, which would you prefer? Which would you advise?
For admissions, I think email is probably the best way. For alumni, it's very hard to get their email. So using LinkedIn and then for current students, it depends. Because some of them are ambassadors, some of them are easy to connect with, and other ones are not. And so it might be a little bit more difficult, but if you find them on LinkedIn, certainly try to connect with them on LinkedIn.
There's an argument about how long should a call last. Should it be 15, 10 minutes, 20, 1 hour, 2 hours? How long should that call last? What would you advise?
I think that the first call, you asked in the email to set up a call. You asked to set up, say whatever it might be. I think a fair ask is 30 minutes to start. And then the biggest thing is then keeping the time. You know, if you're going to make the call and you set up to call them or them call you, you got to make sure you say that. And then if you're the person that's supposed to make the call, you make sure that you make it on time. And then once you're starting to get like 5 minutes left, just say, hey, you know, we only have 5 minutes left to chat here. You know, would you mind if I followed up with another email for us to have another call later on down the road? Or, oh, do you have extra time? I got like 2 more questions I want to ask. Do you mind if we go over by a couple minutes? You know, and ask those permissions, because it's, but stick to the time, because a lot of times when you're talking, say you get a call with GP, and he may have a meeting right after that's scheduled. He may only have these 30 minutes blocked on his calendar. Or same with an admissions team. You know, we have back-to-back meetings. And so I try to set the expectation when I talk with students is our calls are scheduled for 30 minutes. I have a meeting right after here. So I'm going to need to do a hard stop here, and then I give them like a 5-minute warning, like, hey, we got 5 minutes left. You have like, we got time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. So I try to help with that because I know it's difficult, but if you're doing that with an alum, you want to have the courtesy of doing that. And I think they would greatly appreciate that.
I'm going to let Godspower take it off from there. What is some advice you have for people reaching out to alums or current students with respect to how should the call look like?
Honestly, Ryan has said a lot about this. If you're reaching out to me, I always do this as a rule of thumb. How would I feel if I were in the other person's shoes, right? I need to be understanding of the person I'm having the conversation with. So being timely or being prompt in general is a rule that you must have. So if you schedule a call with me, you can't just, look, I'm someone that is very, very prompt in everything I do. So if I have a meeting at a particular time, I am there at that time. Probably I'm there like 1 minute early, especially in these times that we have a lot of back-to-back virtual meetings. So I'm there 1 minute early. And I don't think it's polite for you who are sought out to actually have the conversation with me not to be there. So I've had different experiences where people schedule time with me. Oh, yes, I would like to connect with you and talk to you about, your career at Microsoft or your MBA experience. Then I get to the call at the appointed time. The person is not there. Then I'm the one sending an email out, reaching out, saying, oh, I'm on the call right now. Where are you? And the person said, oh, sorry, I had an emergency and stuff like that. I don't think it's fair on me to be reaching out to you at that particular point in time. Even if an emergency comes up or something comes up, just shooting an email saying, oh, before this call, oh, I had an emergency, I had to attend to something, I would like to reschedule this call. That I would have enough time to plan my time and say, okay, all right, maybe I should pick up something else at this particular point in time. So being prompt and being timely is something I advise everyone to do. And also sticking to the allotted time. You don't want to think that, oh, for you're in a conversation with someone and you might think, oh, this conversation is so great. I'm having such a wonderful time talking to GP. I can just stay here and keep talking for the next 2 hours. But probably GP doesn't feel the same way about the conversation. So you want to stick to the allotted time as much as possible. Just like I said, my general rule of thumb is put yourself in the other person's shoes. You don't know what the person is going through. You don't know if the person has, so there are days where at work, it can be really, really, really busy. And the person has just tried to squeeze out those few minutes to talk to you because, well, he's an alum and he's trying to give back to the community. So pay attention to the time and keep to the time you have allotted. And when you're having those conversations and when you're reaching out to people, like I said, if you're reaching out on LinkedIn, don't just connect with the person. I don't know a lot of people who reach out or connect with me. So especially for people who are in admissions or alums, most of them are in places where people are seeking to be at. So a lot of people get a lot of connections. So you want to make your connections as personable as possible. So leave a note in your connections on LinkedIn. Just send, oh, all right, I'm trying to reach out to you to talk about this. Let the person have an idea why you're actually trying to connect with the person. So leave a note if you're connecting with people on LinkedIn. Be aware of the time that you've set for the conversation and be prompt to those conversations. And like I said, if anything happens that you can't make the conversation, it's just courtesy to let the person know way ahead of time that you're gonna be late or you're not gonna meet an stipulated or set appointment.
Thank you, Godspower. You've highlighted a number of things that I think are very valuable to anyone listening. One thing I usually say is always have an objective in mind before you go into the call. And that would help you a lot with the kind of questions you ask and would also have the other person knowing fully well that, okay, we're coming into this conversation and this is what we're talking about. For instance, we could have just reached out to Ryan and said, you know what, we want you to come talk to our MBA community and all. And Ryan might be lost as to what exactly he's coming to say. But even though we're talking about one or two other things, there's a backbone, there's a pathway in it that we're focused on, and that's networking. And that really helps a lot. There's a question Miriam is asking, and I want to throw that to Godspower first, and then I'll take Ryan's perspective on it. How soon should people follow up with you, Godspower? And does it even matter that they send an email later on thanking you for your time?
So I would tell you two answers to that. So to me, if we have a conversation and you tell me thank you at the end, and we've parted ways at the end of that conversation, it's fine. You don't necessarily have to send me a thank you email following up. But honestly, for recruiters or for admissions officers, look, those people speak to a lot of people each day. And you want to show your appreciation for them taking time to actually talk to you. And it's also a way to keep a trail and to actually initiate a follow-up conversation with them. So you're trying to reach out to a recruiter, you're trying to connect with Ryan, and you're interested in the program. Yes, you've had an initial conversation, but you also want to keep the conversation going. You're trying to build a relationship with Ryan, right? Networking is about building a relationship. So you don't, for some reason, I always default to this old dating thing. You don't just want to ask someone out, have the first date, and you're really interested in the person and you just keep quiet. So follow up with the person, ask them, oh, can we schedule another call? Can we schedule another date and stuff like that? So it's just, to me, just treat the entire networking process as you building a relationship. And my advice to everyone is commit to it. Actually put resources and time to networking. It's about you trying to get something you want. If you're really interested in finding out, or you're really interested in making those connections, put time and put your resources into it.
GP, I think the dating one is a classical example. That's constantly in my mind, and it does help with how you reach out. And let me move the spotlight to Ryan. Does a follow-up email impact your perspective of the candidate, and what are the benefits? And then to answer Miriam's question, how soon should you follow up? Or then maybe how soon should you follow up after a call? And then how soon should you follow up with an unanswered email? So say, for instance, I send you an email and you haven't responded. Should I send you a follow-up email within 30 minutes or within 1 day? How does that work?
Yeah, so I'll ask her specific question first. For me, if I am right now currently in my inbox 100 unanswered emails behind. Starting in the fall, it gets crazy. Yeah. Starting in the fall, it gets pretty crazy. And so I try to get through that as fast as possible while still having to manage people and still have to prepare for, like right now I'm working on spring events. Like I'm trying to be 6 months out in planning. And that's really, really tough to do. And so if you can give me 7 to 10 days to respond to an unanswered email, I think that's fair. You know, the thing that I get frustrated with personally is if it's within 24 hours and you send me an email. Like I've gotten an email at 3 p.m. on say a Thursday, and then because of the time change, they went to bed and then woke up, and then at 4 a.m. they're like, oh, I didn't hear back yet. Let me send it again. And I'm like, I literally haven't read the first email yet, let alone then I'm asleep when you send me the second one. But if you can give them, typically a week, if you email them on Friday, give them until like you have that Friday, the weekend, and then Monday. If they don't get, that's a very fair time, at least for me. Like if I haven't gotten back to you in a week, and if you send me an email, I'm going to feel bad. So that I didn't get back to you sooner. And so and I'm like, oh yeah, I've been meaning to respond to this and I haven't because of X, Y, and Z. I'm going to do it right now so I don't forget.
Mm.
And so I think that's, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the time zone thing is a very important thing to take note of. I
Yeah.
think it's really important.
Mm-hmm.
We often forget that the people we're trying to connect with don't work in the same time zone. So I can imagine receiving an email 4 a.m. in the morning and I'm like, damn, does this person not know that I should be asleep at this time?
Well, and I don't mind if that's your first email. If that's like, I have free time right now, I'm going to go send this email off whenever you have free time. That is completely fine by me. But it's like when you send me one in the afternoon and the next one in the morning, or vice versa, and I'm just like, I give me a little bit of time here, and I'm going to get to this, I promise. Because while everyone feels that their questions are the most important because it's theirs, right? I have to do this for everybody who's inquiring about the program. And so we're trying to just keep up with it to make sure that we can get back to you within, a week. I'm trying to keep it to 2 days if I can, but if you don't hear from us in a week, I think that's a fair time to email back and just say, hey, I haven't heard from you. Do you have time to get back? Can you follow up with me on this, or whatever it might be.
Thank you very much. And then to move on to the other question, yeah.
Oh, and then the other thing is you were asking about
thank you emails.
Oh, thank you emails. I think thank you emails are valuable when there is something that either you weren't able to get across or you just wanted to reaffirm, or if there was a point to the email. Sending a thank you email just to say thank you, for me, it goes like, I'm going to read it, be like, great, and I'm going to hit delete, right? I'm not going to respond to a thank you email. But if it's like, hey, I wanted to thank you for your time and just let you know I'm definitely going to get my application in for round 2 or round 1 or whatever it might be. Or if thank you, I just had this one question I thought of, that might be that, could you help me with that? And there may be something you forgot to ask on the phone or didn't have time to ask over the phone. I think those are great, because then it gives me a reason to respond. If you're sending me a thank you with no reason for me to respond to it, that's fine. And I'm going to read it and be like, great, cool. Like, we had a great experience. I loved it too, and then I'm going to hit delete because I got those 100 other emails right now in my inbox that I'm going to try to answer questions for,
Right. So let's move into the impact of this correspondence in trying to talk with both alum, students, and admission officers. How does this impact the MBA decision, if it does at all?
I think we're trying to use our ambassadors more. I tend to not hear from alumni who have conversations unless it's a negative conversation, unless it's a bad experience with that. Like, if you scheduled a meeting with GP and have postponed or canceled it 3 times on him, he might reach out and be like, hey, I've been trying to have this conversation with the student and they've canceled 3 times on me without any notice. Like, that's going to look bad on you, or if you had a conversation with an alum and they're like, I don't really think this person's the right fit for our program. That's the only time I've ever heard back. I rarely hear back when they're like, this person's awesome, this is great, you need to admit them, right? Every now and then I get an ambassador that does that. But because we try to follow up and get their input on, hey, how did the phone call go? Or how's your communication with student XYZ over here doing, and many times, more often than not, it's positive. They have great experiences connecting with prospective students, but every now and then you do get the students where they're like, I'm not really sure if they are fit for our program. But it doesn't make or break a decision for at least our process. But it does have an impact one way or another.
Sure, you're going to be pretty coy about that, so people don't think that that's the only way to get into the program.
Oh, no.
But,
And I think our the thing that we try to do, at least on our team, we try to do a very great job of taking all aspects of the application into consideration. Because when my goal for the classroom experience for our students, when I'm looking at an application, is what can this person bring to the table that is different from anybody else in the class? What makes this person unique? And what can other people in this class learn from this individual? Because the way the classroom's set up, and GP, correct me if I'm wrong, but your 2-hour classes, there's maybe 15 to 30 minutes of a lecture, and the rest of it is a conversation facilitated by faculty. So you're learning just as much from each other as you're learning from faculty. And so when I'm looking at an applicant, I'm like, who's going to be able to learn from this person? I don't want 60 engineers in our program, because they're all going to be thinking the same, or 60 accountants, right? Or whatever it might be. So I want a couple accountants, I want a couple engineers, I want a couple, arts people, I want a couple whatever. And and then the other part of it is like, can we get you a job? Right? Those are the two biggest things for us. And so, everyone talks about a GMAT, everyone talks about GPA, all that, a number of years of experience. That stuff is great to report on. The two questions we try to answer in our committee are those two questions. I don't even know if that answered your question anymore, Sam. You're muted, by the way.
you would think that by now I'll get the hang of Zoom, but somehow it still comes up again. And I'll say big thank you to you for the detailed answer. And you more or less just answered a couple of other questions that I have for you. We've got like 9 minutes left, so I'm just going to try and open this up to as many people who would like to answer the question. So you could raise your hand. Oh, okay. Just raise your hand so I can. There's a raise your hand feature on your phone or just any other sign, and then I'll call on you. Okay, yeah. So, Olamide.
Yeah, hi, Samuel. Hi, Ryan.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Hi, Ryan. We connected during MBA tour, the virtual session in New York. So my question is very quick. So I wanted to find out if you had any advice for students actually applying during this COVID period, because I know that the school has actually changed a lot of things around applications. So if you had any advice and tips and things that have actually changed with the admissions process as well.
Thank you. Great question. What I would do is the biggest thing I think people are changing right now are GMAT GRE requirements. We have updated our policy on our GMAT waiver policy, and I would check into that and connect with ambassadors and not ambassadors, admissions counselors with that, and see what all has happened there. We're trying to keep ours the same, and we'll see if that changes between this year and this past year and this year. But we're trying to keep our process the same, and we'll have to see. Our round one is coming up here in October 1st. and we'll see if we have to make some more changes other than updating our waiver policy. But to be honest, it's a the being able, those two things are the things that we're trying to look at, and it's that's really those are two of the biggest things you want to try and focus on, other than your GMAT and your but your work experience is taken into those two things as well. So I don't know if that really answers your question, to be honest, but I hope it kind of does.
Yes, that was very clear. Thank you very much.
Great.
So Kenny, over to you.
Thank you so much, Ryan, for this session. I really appreciate your time and your resources that you are giving. So quick one for me is that I don't really have, at this point in time, I don't have like a transcript to showcase. So when we are applying, you need like transcript or something to showcase your academic grades. At this point in time, it's not easy to get these things because of the COVID-19 that Nigeria and also schools are on lockdown. What do you advise for people to do at this point in time while trying to apply for Penn State?
So that's run by our internal graduate school that oversees all applications. So all schools do this part differently. We are currently accepting copies of official transcripts. So if you have an official one from when you graduated, you could take a photo of it and upload that. We may be able to start the process with an unofficial transcript or something like that. But the graduate school, Penn State, does not allow us to offer admission until we have at least a copy of an official on file. And then if you're offered admission, you'll be required to submit an official transcript. And so if you don't think you'll be able to offer an official transcript until, before next September, that might be a little bit difficult, and you might need to push back your process of your application timeline a little bit. But if you can get like a digital copy of a transcript, if you can, because a lot of schools are doing that now, if you can get a digital version of it, that would be ideal to get things started on our end, at least.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you so much.
Before we go, we've got another question from Kenny. Thank you. Franklin, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. Okay, can you hear me now? Good.
Yes.
Ryan, basically my question is on student clubs. So I know that Penn State has a relatively small class as compared to other MBA programs. So how possible or how visible is it for people who have like initiatives or like the possibilities of starting new clubs to launch that as part of the program, or to launch initiatives like under the clubs that are part of the Smeal program, basically? Yeah, so that's my question.
So we have many different clubs already set up at Penn State. At Smeal, we have our MBA, the MBA Association, which is essentially the student government for all MBA activities. And then we have a club for each of our concentrations, so supply chain, finance, marketing, and consulting. And then we have a club, and then we have a couple other clubs on top of that. So like the Women's MBA Club, we have the Diversity MBA Club, we have the Net Impact Club, which focuses on sustainability and impact of business practices within the corporations. and we have several others like that. The hard part for starting new ones outside of that is the way we have things organized. So we had graduating class before GPs. They had about probably 6 to 8 students, so that's 10 to 15% of our class, of that class going into oil and gas. And so they all they wanted to start an oil and gas club. And so we started as a you know, like a focus group, or a group of individuals who are interested. And if we find that we're getting individuals who are consistently interested in that, we work on then growing it into a club phase. So I forget what the name of what we named it, but it's like a baby club, like it's a smaller version of a club, but then we'll grow it if we can continue to have that type of interest. You know, if we find that being a fad, where it's like just that class has that interest and no other class after that has it, that's a little bit more difficult for us to sustain for years. Whereas we know that we're always going to have females in the program, so having the Women MBA Club is going to be around. Our 4 concentrations will always be there, so that's going to be around. Our net impact, we always seem to have students interested in that type of sustainability and things like that. So it would be so we can continue to grow and keep that club, and it's one of our largest ones actually. So if you find something that you want to bring in that all of our students are interested, or you have a large group of students interested in, absolutely, yeah, we would love to do that. And it's small enough where you can then kind of grow it on your own way, or you can make it just a part of another club, or you can kind of partner with another club to do something like that.
All right, Ryan, just if you don't mind me, just one more question.
Absolutely.
Asking privately.
Yeah.
This person is asking, what are the funding options available to Africans?
Question. That's a wonderful question. So for the past, I believe 3 years, that's as long as I've been there, I believe every one of our international students received a full tuition scholarship, an MBA fellowship. So all of our students had that, were offered that. And so that's...
Ryan, I'm going to cut you short here because what you're saying, I need that to sink in.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you say all, are you saying all? When you say full tuition or full scholarship, are you saying just tuition waivers, or are you saying you're covering
GP, what'd you get?
Okay, that'll be great.
GP, what'd you get?
All right. So I know for myself and every international student in my own class, I had a full tuition waiver, and monthly stipends, and also discounts on medical insurance. It's pretty much you just coming from Nigeria.
Yeah. And so we've done that for, I know, the past 3 years, and we're trying to continue that. We've had about 75% of our class each year gets a full tuition scholarship with a monthly stipend. We also, on top of that, we have and I'm going to butcher the name, and I apologize, Miyamuna Mijindadi scholarship, which was an alum of ours who her and her brother Mo went through the program. Shortly after graduation, she passed away in a car accident, and so his class and her class got together, and we had they put together a scholarship specifically for, and let me read it here. I believe it's for students from Nigeria or of Nigerian descent. And it's not opening up on the website, unfortunately. But I believe that's what it is. And so we focus, typically it goes to a female student, incoming student from Nigeria. And so we typically have one of those that we give out in addition to those MBA fellowships as well. And with this Penn State Smeal College of Business, I saw somebody asking which school for us latecomers.
but I think what Penn State is doing is unbelievable. It's just mind blowing, really mind blowing. And I'm sure there are other awards and scholarships like that cover significantly all your expenses. Like you're being paid to go to school by doing that. But I think the thinking behind that is so that you can pay it forward. You can come back and help with the old scholarship fund as well. I'm going to let Ryan jump off at this point. I want to say a very big thank you to you for your time tonight. It's really amazing having you on board. And, you know, when we shoot the email and Joy, yourself, and other students agreed to be on this, thank you very much. GP, I want to say a very big thank you to you as well. This is why I stopped the recording, because we normally have an